Hansel and Gretel. At the edge of a great forest was a small cottage. In it lived two children, a boy, Hansel, and his sister Gretel. Their father, a poor woodcutter, loved them dearly. Their stepmother, however, was mean and miserable and hated the children with a passion. One evening their father opened the cupboard and found almost nothing left to eat.
This won't feed four. How can we live?
The stepmother saw the chance she'd been waiting for. Give the children some bread, take them into the forest and leave them there.
But they'll die.
Better the two of them than all four of us. And though the woodcutter loved his children dearly, he could see no other way. In their bed, Hansel and Gretel heard their stepmother's wicked plan. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel dried her tears and said, "Don't worry, sister. I have a plan too." Later that night, he crept outside and filled his pockets with white pebbles that shone like silver in the moonlight. Next day, as they followed their father into the forest, Hansel quietly dropped the pebbles onto the path. When they stopped to rest, the woodcutter told his children to stay by the fire while he went to chop wood. The children ate their piece of bread and waited, but their father didn't return for them. They fell asleep, and when they awoke it was night. Feeling frightened, Gretel asked, "How will we get home?" Her brother hushed her and told her to wait for the moon to rise. Sure enough, when the moon came out, the white pebbles Hansel had dropped shone like silver and led the children safely back home. Their delighted father hugged them tightly, but their stepmother was furious. A few weeks later, the cupboards were bare once more. The stepmother again urged the woodcutter to take his children back into the forest and leave them there. That night, with a wicked smile on her face, the stepmother locked the doors so Hansel couldn't collect the white pebbles that had led them home before. "No one's coming back this time." The next day, the two children dutifully followed their father into the forest. Now it was Hansel's turn to despair. "Without pebbles, we'll never find our way home." But Gretel whispered in her brother's ear, "It's all right. This time I have a plan." And she started to crumble their only piece of bread onto the path as they walked deeper into the forest than they had ever walked before. That night, they again waited by the fire for their father, but again he didn't return. Next morning, they went to find the breadcrumbs that would lead them home. To their dismay, they found no sign of them. The forest birds had eaten every single one. For 3 days, Hansel and Gretel walked deeper into the forest trying to find their way home. Hungry and tired, they suddenly stumbled into a clearing where they saw the most wonderful sight. A house made of gingerbread. Roofed with cakes and with windows of spun sugar, the starving children couldn't wait to eat it. Gretel nibbled at the window while Hansel reached up and broke a piece off the roof. Just then, a voice called out, "Nibble, nibble like a mouse. Who is nibbling at my house?" The door opened and an old woman appeared. She smilingly beckoned them inside. There, the most delicious meal lay on the table. But as soon as the children entered the house, the old woman slammed the door and cackled gleefully. The horrified children soon realized the truth. The old woman was really a witch, and she was planning to make a meal out of them. The witch locked Hansel in a cage. She sent Gretel into the kitchen and made her cook for her brother so he would be fat enough for the witch to eat. Every morning the witch would hobble over to the cage and cry, "Boy, put out your finger so I can feel if you're getting fat." As the witch could hardly see, Hansel tricked her by holding out an old chicken bone. "You're a bag of bones, boy. Eat more, eat fast, eat now." After several days, the witch was starving and could wait no longer. She opened the oven door to see if it was hot enough. Quickly, Gretel pushed the witch with all her might, sending her head first into the oven. Then she slammed the door. Gretel hurried to the cage and set Hansel free. Then the children gathered up the old witch's precious stones and pearls and sprinted through the woods as fast as their little legs could carry them. Luckily, the path they followed led them home, where their dear father was overjoyed to see them. Even better, their evil stepmother had left the house and would never return again. The delighted children laughed and clapped, and then Gretel took out her apron. The woodcutter couldn't believe his eyes. From that day on, Hansel and Gretel lived happily with their father, and they never went hungry again.